Okay guys, I'm going to do a video here on setting your pop-off pressure, putting a new seat in, a couple of little trick bits. I'll do the lever height as well. I did do a video which I think it was more confusing than anything, so it was kind of a bit of a carry on from my post of whether the lever height makes it run richer or leaner. Well, basically lifting the lever height makes it richer because the pivot of the actual lever opens the needle more, which allows more fuel to flow. But the thing that I didn't explain is why it runs leaner up top end is because you've got to lean your engine down that much to make a tune down low that then you got to be too lean up high. So just the average of fuel delivery just becomes all mixed up. So you don't want a carby to dump a heap of fuel in that low and down in the low RPM that you got to lean the needles up to make it run clean. If anything, you want to have the carby delivering the least amount of fuel that it needs down low so you can open the needles and allow that fuel in the mid-range where you really need a good amount of fuel to create that mid-range power, and then you still want it to lean out up top end. Yeah, sometimes I even confuse myself, but the fundamentals are, like when it comes to pop-off pressure, the higher the pressure, the leaner the carby will run up top end, because the needle will be closing off sooner and not allowing as much fuel to flow. And then when you've got the pop-off pressure lower, that's going to allow fuel to flow easier because of the spring pressure. So without waffling on, I'll just get in and do this. So anyone that watched the other video know that the seat on this carby here was no good. It was leaking. So I'm going to put a new seat that I got here. I'll grab a new needle out of this packet. You can get all this stuff in a full kit. I have them separate because I go through a lot of them to find a good one. Some are good, some are not so good. So you got a little brass washer there. Before you put it in, give it a bit of a blow off down on the seat to make sure no dust is down in there. So you put your little copper washer down the bottom there. Years ago, there were some carbies that actually didn't run a washer. They still work. And so if you have a look at the seat here, it's just kind of got like a little lip around there, and that helps seal it off. So I just put it in. I use my old hobby tool that I machined down. It's awesome for this job when I have my RC cars and planes and boats and you name it. So I tighten it up and then I back it off just that little bit and then retension. That just kind of cuts that little lip in the seat, just makes it cut in better and seal up. I've actually had a few seats leak by just tightening it at once. So yeah, so the seat's in, and there's a little trick that I do with the needle. The needle has like a coating on it, and I don't know if that coating is a graphite coating. I don't know if it's just to protect the rubber, stop it perishing. But I actually grabbed a little bit of brake fluid, and actually I wash that off. I don't like it. I find if you wash that off, the needle will seal up straight away and you're not relying on that coating. A lot of people say that coating was actually to help the needle bed in. I'm not too sure, but I have best result of actually removing that coating. The rubber just seems to seal up quicker and seals up better. So So I'll just drop that in. I'll grab a new lever, fulcrum. Can usually reuse the pins. They don't usually wear. So you got your pop-off spring or lever spring. That goes into a little recess there. And then you got the fork that goes into the needle. So that fork, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get in there. That slides in there like that. Now the thing to look out for with your needles and your levers is as your needles wear, they're stainless steel. And these actual, what happens is when it goes in there, these actually turn just the way fuel flows, and they wear. From them going up and down, you'll see like a real wear ridge on the base of that groove where the fork goes in, and underneath there you'll see little wear points. If it gets to that stage, dump it. They're no good. So to fit these, I'll just start the screw off. I'll pull that needle back out. And then slide the pins through, but don't go all the way through, just stop it like that. Drop it down, dead square. And just hold it while you push the pin across, and then tighten that retaining screw. So here we check the height of the lever. It's actually, instead of doing another video, I might just do it on this one. So you'll actually, I use the the plate that goes onto the pump diaphragm. I use that just to check the carbies to see if they're operating properly, because sometimes that fork can actually bind up. I've actually had those forks when they're binding up on the needle and doesn't allow the lever to get pushed all the way down. So then you're not getting the full amount of fuel. So that's basically what I use it for, just to make sure I'm getting the full travel. But in the other video, I was showing that the height, the difference when you lift it up, how much higher that needle goes. So the higher you go, the more that needle gets opened up and allows more fuel to flow. So what you can do, these carbies are designed just to run the lever flat. They're not designed really to muck around too much. Even the manufacturers recommend just run them flat. So you can just use like a razor blade or something to go across there and just push down and see whether it's touching or not. So that one's actually up a little bit. So you can just hold it on the fork and do this, push down, and that's perfect. Now here's another little trick, and if you get it right, the carby will work really well. But you need to look at the actual fork where it sits into that groove on the needle. Some carbies, because the needle will sit at different heights depending on whether it's got a gasket, no gasket, like the copper little gasket thing. The height of the seat can be slightly different, or when that's different height, that changes the height of where the needle sits. So you got to watch where the fork goes in, and you want the fork to sit dead flat. You want it to sit dead flat on top of the needle in that groove. You don't want it sitting on an angle either way, because what happens is when the spring pressure pushes it down, it actually kicks the needle, and that's where you get a lot of leaking out the seat. So sometimes you got to manipulate that fork up and down first before you do any lever height adjusting. Get that fork dead flat. So I'll check this one out. Sometimes if they're not right, I'll just get a screwdriver and just push on it. I'll push on that part and then I'll push down on the tip of the lever, and that will actually bend it in that groove there, in that fold. Alright, so at the moment that's sitting nice and flat, that's level with the body. We'll check the pop off now. That's the pop off gauge. It's got a little O-ring on there. There's the professional ones. Also have the O-ring there where you just hold it in that hole there, and then you pump her up and see at what pressure that needle comes off the seat. And they call it pop off because the needle pops. It pops when it gets to the pressure where the spring is holding it. So you can use a little bit of WD-40. That just lubricates it, and just give it a little bit of a open and close, so a little bit of WD-40 gets onto it. Am I still in the focus in there? Yep. So yes, just hold that down there. I'll see if I can do it without being in the picture. You hear that pop. That was a nice pop. So popped again. So that's holding really nice pressure. If you saw the last video, you would have seen that leaking a heap, but now this one's really good. I can go right up to the pressure that it's going to pop off at. So this is at about 10 psi, this one. And this is a really nice pop off pressure. And that's where you can usually tell a good carby. One that's kind of leaking a bit, you'll find the tuning will be a bit all over the place. A carby that has a nice pulse, nice seal on that seat, yeah, it'll be a really good carby to tune. Really responsive, and you'll win some races. So if you want to lower the pop-off pressure, there's a few things to do there. So that one's sitting at 10. Just pull that back out, and there you got your spring there. So you can buy different springs. Tillotson have different springs, and they actually have written on there, you know, the different weight. So that's a 46 gram spring. Then you can get 37s, 31s. I like springs with more coils. Always have. Some of the heavier springs have less coils, and I find there's a few things that come into place here. Like, you can have a spring, two different coil springs pop off at the same pressure, like say 10 psi. You could have a multi-coil spring pop off at 10. You can have one that has less coils pop off at 10. But when that lever actually gets opened up, there's actually more pressure. Now this is something that comes into play when we were talking about when the lever is lifted. That can actually change the spring pressure when it's actually closed. It actually gives it more spring pressure, so it'll shut off sooner. So there's a combination of the lever and that, and a lot of people neglect to look at the actual spring itself. And I do like one with more coils, because when it's open, it's very similar pressure to what you set the pop off at. But if I was actually to have one with less coils, as the metering diaphragm pushes down on it, you're actually increasing your pressure. It's just like the same as the spring rates of the car's suspension. Because I always wondered why, using different springs, you put the same different spring in and put it on the dyno. I wonder why same tune, one's leaning out more than the other, and yeah, then I kind of worked that out. So I don't get into changing the spring weights. I know which spring I like to use, and I use it at all different pressures. So the way I change the pressure, I either stretch the spring to increase the pressure, or I decrease the spring. So to do that, I actually put it in my fingers like that, and I just roll the spring back to 4 like that. I'm squashing the spring and reducing the tension on the coils. One thing I never do is I never chop a spring. It's like chopping the coils on a car to lower it. Give it a few months and the whole thing will be just sagged. So you need those coils to retain that height. So I don't chop the coils, never have, never will. And I just squash it. So if I set that back in, we'll see where it's at. Carbies are a bit confusing. You really got to kind of think about what they're doing and how they're doing it. So let's see where we got to with this one. There we go. It's at 8 now, and I didn't chop the spring. It's actually a little bit less than 8. So I'll go the other way. I'll lengthen the spring. So I just get it, pull it apart. Still got the same amount of windings and coils. Same tension on the wire. My stomach's grumbling. I think I need something to eat. Okay, let's see where we're at with this. So that's at about a bit over 11 now, and then it's holding good pressure. If you are a person that likes to muck around with the lever height, like I'm not saying never, I don't do it. I have heaps of times over the years. And some tracks may warrant doing it. So you need that lot of fuel down low. You need to lean the needles up to get your top end. It could be actually a good carby setting. But you know, some guys are bending these tips and stuff like that and think it's doing something that's not doing jack shit. But what you got to watch is if you adjust your lever, so I'll just adjust this one right up, exaggerate. You're reducing the pressure on the spring there, but what you're actually doing is when that needle's going further down, you're actually increasing the pressure because of that spring rate. So I've lifted that up. It should actually drop the pop-off pressure. Yep, so now it's down to 10. So if you are going to muck around with your lever height, always set your height first to where you want to set it. Then do your spring pressure and you're good to go. So it's been a long day doing videos. I'm doing them now because everyone's away racing this weekend at the South Australian titles. I've been watching their times today and they're all going really good, which I like to see. Hopefully we get a few title meetings and then yeah, hopefully we have a break up until Christmas and then we'll be into it again next year.